this is Two Ladies Winter's Adventures. I'm Jenny, and I'm going to be reading part 4 of The Incredible Escape of John Surratt. In the book, True Tales of Bold Escapes by Theodore Raskol. But the War Department flashed no description of Surratt to Street Evans. On the morning of the 18th, John Surratt coolly stepped off the train at the Frontier Depot. Years afterward, he recalled that a detective at the depot scanned everyone head to foot, myself as well as the rest. I had provided myself with an Oxford cut jacket and a round top hat, particular to Canada at that time. I believe that costume lured me safely, though Street Evans. I went with the other passengers to move around. One of the detectives approached me and stared me directly in the face. I took him quietly back. Then the fugitive sauntered across the border to Franklin, Canada, where the Montreal train was waiting. In a few moments, I was speeding on my way. Surratt had no cause for disquiet. The Street Evans police had been given no idea that anyone resembling him was wanted. Surratt's name and description first appeared in the War Department. Notice that was issued on April 20th, 3 days after his mother's arrest. This same display poster publicized sentence degree of death to anyone who harbored secretly or abetted the mention leading to Booth's capture. 20 abetted the fugitives. It arrests a reward of 100,000 to 50,000 for information leading to Booth's capture, 25,000 for information leading to the capture of John H. Surratt. And Daniel C. Harold, the misnaming of David E. Harold in the poster is a curious error. Strangler still is the poster's description of John Surratt. John H. Surratt is about 5 feet 9 inches. Hair rather thin and dark. Eyes rather light. No beard. Complexion rather pale and clear with color in his cheeks. Wore light clothing of fine quality. Shoulders square, cheekbones rather prominent. Chin narrow, ears projected at top. Parts his hair on the right side, neck rather long. His lips are firmly set. A slim man. Compare this cellular description with the furnished of Authoress by Louis Wichman. About 6 feet high, very prominent forehead, very large nose, sunken eyes. He has a goatee and long hair of a light color, not dark, light. as though to compound error with confusion attached to the War Department cellular of April 20th, where photographs of Booth Herald and Surratt Herald, unrecognizable as a young schoolboy, and the Surratt photo, that of a beardless lad, in tin-type pose, the features blurred beyond recognition. As some later time, date unknown, the military servants of the War Department substituted a Surratt photograph that shows him wearing squarish chin whiskers, not a goatee, and his hair parted on the left side. Meanwhile, John H. Surratt reached Montreal at noon. On April 18th, he repaired at once to the fashionable Street Lawrence Hall Hotel, residence of the Confederate envoys in Canada. There he coyly signed in as John Harrison. His transparent allies on the Street Lawrence Hall register was going to cost Surratt an uncomfortably close call, for the Siouxlands on his Montreal trail were not dependent on misinformation. Advices from Secret Service, Chef Baker, and the U.S. War Department met. Officer McDivitt counted on Lewis Wichman to identify the fugitive. On hand was Border John Holhan to certify the identification. Booth, Wichman, and Holhan had everything to gain by putting the finger on Surratt, and both knew him as slim 6-footer with thin blonde hair, a prominent forehead, a notable nose, and a dab of goatee. Furthermore, Wichman knew his handwriting. McDivitt and Partly arrived in Montreal on the 20th after checking in at the St. James Hotel. They hurried to Street Lawrence Hall, acting in Wichman's recollection that Surratt had once mentioned this hotel. They found the name John Harrison in the registry. Wichman identified Surratt's familiar hand. The query, however, was not in. The desk clerk shook his head. A gentleman had called for Mr. Harrison. Shortly after his arrival, and Mr. Harrison had checked in, did Surratt receive a warning that Washington detectives were on his trail, not according to his own account of what occurred, but gasps in Surratt's autobiographical story suggest intermediate lapse into total aphasia. A simple code telegram from Washington or New York could have easily beaten Richard's officers to Montreal, or some great agent stationed in St. Albans could have flashed him a warning. Move swiftly, Surratt. Quiet the hotel, and sought refuge in the home of an exiled Southern knave, Porterfield. Federal records on Porterfield are vague. He seems to have been banker for Jacob Thompson, Clement Clay, and the other Confederate envoys. President in Montreal. He may have financed the several border raids and the New York fire raid staged by rebel saboteurs in the autumn of '64. Apparently, he had also engaged in financial sabotage, working covertly to undermine Wall Street with tricky stock manipulations. Greenback juggled and the juggling and watering of U.S. Confederacy with floods of counterfeit banknotes. Porterfield eventually finished Surratt with funds for a fast departure from the risky Canadian metropolis. For Surratt soon dodged from the Porterfield domicile in the Washington detectives had him spotted as he recalled the Ticklish station. One day I walked out and saw Witchman on the lookout for me. He had little idea that I was so near. In that instant of recognition, Surratt's reflexes, sharpened by underground training, spun him around the corner and under cover, and I was told the detectives were going to search the house, and that I must leave immediately, which I did. They searched it before morning. The shave was closer than Surratt's laconic recollection, and pales with Witchman and Holohan in tow McDivitt, and his fellow officers descended on Porterfield's doorstep, just as the dust settled behind Surratt's departing carriage. Had not Porterfield ridged behind Surratt's departing carriage, had not ridged up a tricky decoy, Surratt would have found himself in irons on his way to the United States Capitol. As it was, he set out a top speed for Theros Rivers. I am going to stop it there because that is a good stopping point and pretty good cliffhanger. So like and subscribe so we can get to 1,000 subscribers so we can start beekeeping. Like the little bee gonna come up soon. And the bee's gonna show up there. Cole's cat's on the opposite side.